get us rolling here. All right, all right. Coach Julie here, IYCA brand executive. So excited to have Dave Gleason in the room with me today. How are you, Dave?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I am doing well. I'm excited because we're here to talk a little bit about this upcoming IYCA virtual summit. And you are going to be one of our featured guest speakers on that summit as a longtime contributor to the IYCA. And not only a contributor, but a coach who absolutely embodies what it means to be an IYCA coach. And I'm excited to have you in the room because of your specialty working with our youth population under 13. You are quite literally the pro, the expert, and you have always had this mindset of growth and learning around this population. And I know you're going to shed a lot of light in the room for coaches out there, performance professionals who are working with this age group. So, Dave, before we dig into a little bit around your content for the upcoming virtual summit, remember, guys, this is from the comfort of your own home. So you can tune in from anywhere in the world for this summit on November 18th. But before we get there, Dave, would love to know, you've been with us for a while now. What and why are you so passionate about this particular age group, and fill the audience in if you're new to Dave Gleason? How long have you been in this industry? And yeah, just give us a little bit of backstory about you.
Well, first of all, thank you. You're very generous with your words. I appreciate that very much. So I've been in the game a long time. 30 years this year, actually, this fall. So I started training kids while I was still in college, and then just never looked back. So that's the short story there. I don't want to talk about anything else because it'll just make me feel older than I am. Uh, this age group has always been very special to me. I've been lucky enough to work with kids of all age groups. When I started to do this for a living and actually have a business, one of the first things that came to mind that was kind of superficial for me now is, I was kind of complain about, well, younger kids are kind of, pain in the butt or whatever. I want to train elite athletes, the elite high school athletes that are going off to school. Then I started to think, I can't complain about that if I'm not willing to prepare younger kids for that opportunity to play after high school or play at a high level at high school, or come and see me or any other qualified strength and conditioning coach to better prepare them to be at their best on and off the field. So I started to dive in deeper and deeper and deeper. And I found personally the freedom in training 6 to 9-year-olds in that kind of age group, and then 10 to 13-year-olds, because of that process of discovery that you allow them to go through if you allow yourself to do that and have the patience to do that. And a real quick example of that is I learned very quickly through being certified through the IYCA level 1 that, if I ask a group of children 6 and 7 years old to skip to a certain spot on the field or on the turf or whatever, and that's all I say, and some, they look like they're ace skipping, and I'm like, oh man, this kid's great. And then you have some kids that are like this, or they're doing 360s, and I thought, wow, okay, if I apply what I learned, they're doing what I asked. I asked them to skip. I did not ask them to skip a particular way. So then to have the freedom to say, great job, you guys. Now I have a rule for you. Now when you skip, I want you to throw your hands behind you as hard as you can, and then watch. So it's I love the process of letting them go. You give them a task, you let them go, and you observe. And then based on what you observe, you give them one simple cue, and then you watch their brains take over. And now the other thing I like about that, like naturally I'm really shy and I'm introverted, so I don't want the spotlight. I'm not the type of person that, well, this kid did this physically because of me. It's all them. I'm just guiding them. So that process of guided discovery and movement exploration, to me, it's just so fun. I love it. And beyond that, whether it's a 6-year-old or an 18-year-old, to see a child's eyes light up when their brain connects to their body and that skill clicks for the very first time, and they look at you like my kids have looked at me at times, like, did you see that? Being able to share in that is still what gets me out of bed in the morning. So that's
Mm.
why I'm really, really excited to share a little bit at the virtual summit in November. Some of the intricacies and some things that have worked really well for me over the years in dealing with 6 to 9-year-olds and 10 to 13-year-olds, and how to prepare them for success later.
Mm. So good, Dave. And I can so sense your passion in this, and I hope whoever's watching can sense it too, because when you're working with this age group, it does take a deep sense of passion and desire to really help them become better tomorrow than they are today. Now, you have these 4 C's that I think are game changing for this industry, but also the way that we approach and really set these kids up for longer term success. Dave, would you mind just, staying kind of high level on these 4 C's, and just kind of bridging the audience into, what you're going to be talking a little bit about on November 18th?
Sure, absolutely. Um, just quickly, so you can set the expectations for you guys: communication, cueing, connecting, and of course, coaching. That's what we're all here for, right? So I think it's a really great framework to break down, without making it too broad and too wide, how to effectively coach these kids. And I say coach these kids and serve these kids versus deal with these kids. Okay, again, very early on, I was like, well, that kind of pains in the butt. I don't know. So communicating, I what I really am excited about with this one is it's not just about how we communicate with kids, whether it's a high skill, high motivated kid, low skill, low motivated, or a young athlete that's, high skill but low motivation. How do we, and then there's low skill, high motivation. How do we construct a conversation and speak to those kids? How do we speak to young athletes that are 6 and send the same message in a different way to a child that's 11 or 12 or 13? But beyond that, I'm really excited to dive into just a little bit of how we can communicate with parents and bridge that gap. I think for years, we were talking earlier about how we've had conversations about the woes of dealing with parents. I'm a parent, you're a parent. Many of us are parents. We understand the needs we have and the wants we have for our children. It's not them versus us. We're on their team. We're on their child's team or their children's team and their team as parents. We need to have the right conversations with them. We need to have continuous conversations, even if they're difficult, to make sure that they understand, right? Beyond the primal needs of safety and fun, what are their, like, we learned through all of our education how to do a needs analysis. A parent is just much more surface than that, and they just want their child to be successful and be happy. And what does that mean? So without going into it too much, we're going to dive into that a bit. And I have some strategies that have worked really, really, really well. Because I know that sometimes it's like, well, the hardest part of dealing with kids isn't the kids, it's the parents. And it's like, all right, how do we bridge that gap? Because we don't want to lose any warriors. I've always maintained that everybody that's part of the mission and the just cause of the IYCA is a warrior, and we're trying to do the best we can for children because our society's future depends on it. So, so communication, cueing, how to properly cue a 6-year-old to increase in any typical or any type of skill versus an 11-year-old. And again, if we go back to communication, depending on their aptitude and skill, their understanding of what you're saying, how do we cue, whether it's, kinesthetically, biofeedback, verbally showing what really works well and how to simplify things so a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old can understand it, and then do the best that they can to perform that task, right? Coaching, I don't know. I was like, do I do connecting first or coaching? Because to me, they all envelope all of it, right? To dive into the coaching in terms of the technical side of it as well, right? We had talked earlier about how, in many ways, our programming is kind of ambiguous, right? It needs to be safe and effective and all those things, but the science is there. We can draw off the science and draw off of each other for really effective and safe and appropriate programming for young children. But beyond that, how do we coach it? How do we give other coaches the ability to create that programming on their own instead of saying, okay, here's 15 years worth of my programming. Don't use your brain. Just do this on Tuesday. Next time you see your kids, do this. Because those ever-changing organisms, I said this for years, you might have, your program in front of you, and there might be days with a group of 6 to 9-year-olds, you're like, well, we're playing tag for the next 10 minutes because they're just, it's the Friday before winter vacation, and they're just like, right? Oh, but I wanted to teach them this new high-level skill. No. So the coaching side of it, and then I beyond seeing them learn new skills and seeing their eyes light up, connecting with kids is just, that's the good juice. I mean, that's where it is. And I think more than ever in the times that we live in, they need connection, because connection is not this, right? And I think that's one thing we learned through the pandemic a few years ago was, those of us who survived figured out ways to stay connected to their athletes and connect them to themselves, each other, as much as possible. So to be able to give everyone some insight on how to, through all the other C's, communicate, cue, coach, how to connect with these little human beings, right? That's really what they are. There's just younger human beings. The only thing we have over them is more experience, to be honest, right?
Yeah, true. Sometimes I wonder if they're smarter than some of us, right?
Well, yeah, we could go into that. That's a whole nother
Yeah.
rabbit hole.
That's a whole nother virtual webinar event, right?
Right.
Well, Dave, I know I am looking forward to going deeper on each of these in this event. Because like you said, this is truly the foundation building of our future great athletes, of our future great humans, well-rounded humans that maybe don't go on and play at all the levels, but achieve bigger things in academia or other areas of life, right? And it all starts in this 6 to 13 age group, and specifically the younger ones, of really building those foundational qualities and mindsets and
Right.
characteristics. So I know the world needs more of you. So we're excited to share more of you on November 18th at our IYCA Impact Virtual Summit. You guys are tuning in and you want to be a part of this, you want to get in the room with this guy, then click the link above, below, wherever you may see it, and join us for an entire day to experience what Dave has to bring to the table, as well as our other experts and pros that are going to be in the room with you. Thank you again, Dave, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the 18th.
Thank you so much.